Hey, James, welcome to the Keto Camp podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ben. It's truly a pleasure.
So we met a few weeks ago, now a couple months ago at Low Carb Denver. We had a conversation out in the hallway of the hotel. You had your company there, Eat Pluck. And that was actually the first time I discovered you guys, and I tried it right on the spot. You shared some of the science behind it, some of the ingredients, and we're going to get into it. And I really enjoyed the product. I really enjoyed the fact that you're making it easier for people to get high quality organ meat and creative ways to use it. So I'm excited to have this conversation and share some creative ways to use this product. Before we even get to all that, James, what is the backstory? Why did you decide to even start this company?
Yeah, it goes back about a little over 17 years. That's when I decided to go down the path of becoming a professional chef. I was always slightly different, a little bit of an outlier as a chef. I wasn't into the whole celebrity chef culture. I didn't really focus too much on like knowing how to make foie gras or something. I wasn't into restaurants. Cooking. I just really focused in on like, how do I help people get healthy? And I was identifying that people were eating comfort foods. That's kind of where we gravitate. And so I was like, well, how do I fix that? How do I not force people to do something they're not ready to do, but how do I take something that they're already doing and make it healthier, still delicious, and easy for them to access? And so I was really into like Weston A. Price kind of stuff, like focusing on how things are prepared versus it's really covering how things are prepared, how the animal's fed if you're eating animal, how things are grown. It really kind of looks at the whole culture of food.
Yeah.
And I was always fascinated with that. Got out of culinary school, started cooking for a bunch of really high-end celebrities. Just really started to kind of get my feet grounded as a chef. Because I think whenever you dive into a new career, there's a piece of you that's like, has got FOMO, or not fear of missing out, but more like imposter syndrome. That's the word I'm thinking of.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like anytime. And so I kind of got over that, started to realize, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. I was getting really great feedback. People that had like pregnancy weight for years that they couldn't get rid of, I started cooking for them and they got rid of it. And so they started freaking out and talking to people. And so I had a really great word of mouth. And it still didn't feel like enough, which is interesting. I still think back to this. I think it's not that I regret my decision or anything, but it's just, I always kind of, I think Steve Jobs used to talk about this. It's always easier to look back and connect the dots, but in the moment you just make the best decision you can. So I'm always kind of looking back and just kind of, reflecting and feeling gratitude for the choices I made. But I was cooking for Tom Cruise, pinnacle, like
Wow.
A-list actor, right? Busy. I was making tons of money. And yet I pulled away. I was like, you know what? This is not what I'm here to do. This is not why I'm on this earth. I want to help people. I don't want to help a person.
Mm-hmm.
But, I want to help people, particularly people that don't have billions of dollars or millions of dollars. Like I want to help just everyone as much as I can. So I left Tom and I started a meal delivery service in LA. And it was at a time when there weren't a lot of meal delivery services. There was like a handful. And I was one of the first ones that went 100% gluten-free just because I believed in it. We had a sugar control detox. So we had two kind of avenues you could go down, and one was pulling basically very paleo, but pulling out all the carbs, all the starches, any sugars, alcohol, anything like that. And in 2 weeks, people were feeling great and losing weight, things like that. And then I ran that for 8 years. I sold that. And then we moved out of LA because we had our child and wanted to kind of have a higher quality of life, not have to be in the car all the time. And during that time, I was not healthy. So I wasn't healthy when I owned my business. It was just insane hours. Any entrepreneur out there who's listening probably is going to identify with me, right? It's just, you're in your business, you're working so hard. I was getting 4 hours sleep. I mean, my health was truly suffering. And so when we moved, my focus was all about getting my health back. We had our second child, and it was during those 4 years of being a stay-at-home dad, which I have to say is one of the hardest work I've ever done. Is being a stay-at-home dad. But it was during that time I got my health back, and I came up with the idea for Pluck seasoning. And I think that it's a culmination of how I looked at cooking before, but it's also it also connects to being a father and realizing like as parents, we deal with picky eating, we deal with our modern lifestyle, and I just wanted to remove all the barriers and be like, how can I get the most nutrient dense foods into myself and my kids without the hassle? And that's where Pluck came from.
That's a great question and a very important problem to solve. So amazing backstory. Bravo to you for leaving Tom Cruise to pursue something that was weighing on your heart. I'm sure people were telling you, "Are you crazy? You're leaving Tom Cruise to do a meal plan service or blah blah blah." But you know what? That's what it's about, living on purpose with your purpose. First of all, identifying what that purpose is and then living on purpose with that purpose. So I love the transition to meal plans. And then you go to Portland to relax, and then you have a kid and you become a stay-at-home dad. And then you probably found out you're not going to relax too much with the baby, but you got your health back. And that's where Pluck came about. And I love that. I love that story. So why is it important, James, to eat organ meat? We have people out there, Liver King and Paul Saladino and all these other people talking about liver and other organs to consume. I know the value of it, but what you tell me, why is it important to eat organ meat?
Yeah, well, I really actually I think you met him at the conference we met at, Dr. Bill Schindler.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I really like how he describes it. So basically, for those that don't know, professor of archaeology, that's Bill Schindler. He's got his brand is Eat Like a Human. And he talks about, our evolution. And he talks about how it was really 2 million years ago that we shifted. And I think this is so fascinating. So it was 3.5 million years ago that we were scavengers. And we were eating meat, but we didn't actually truly change. Our brain size didn't increase, or we didn't have language. All these things didn't truly increase until 2 million years ago. So there was like a 1.5 million years where eating meat wasn't enough. And you could argue, well, that's possibly because we didn't have the digestion for it. We couldn't absorb it because we were still developing that. Because we weren't eating meat before that. You could argue that we didn't have fire. There were certain things that we weren't able to assimilate and absorb at that time. But what I think is very fascinating is he points out that 2 million years ago, what made the difference, what changed us overnight, was eating the blood, the fat, and the organs.
Yeah.
It was getting the nutrient density from those elements. And of course, we were also eating muscle meat, but those were the new ones, the blood, the fat, and the organs, brand new to our species. And that's what changed us. That's what increased our brain size. That's what got us, we were also using fire then. That's what changed us and made it so that you and I can talk right now. And I'm not at all trying to comment on like if there's anyone out there that's, maybe you don't get this audience, but I know some audiences, there'll be someone who's plant-based, or I'm not at all commenting on what we choose to eat. Mm-hmm. What we choose to eat is something different, but I'm just kind of commenting on that. Our species changed when we got organ meats into our diet. Yeah. And that's undeniable. You cannot question that kind of thing. So it's like, that's ultimately says everything to me, is that you and I couldn't be having this conversation if we didn't get the nutrient dense vitamins and minerals that are in organ meats, the blood, and the fat. We wouldn't even be here right now talking like this. So
they valued the organ meat because they ate that first. The muscle meat was kind of like, okay, we have nothing else to eat. Let's eat the muscle meat. But they really valued the organs, didn't they?
Absolutely. Well, and that's how predators are in the wild as well.
Because that's where all the nutrients are.
And we're all animals, basically. Yes, we don't have the tools, the claws, or the speed, or the teeth size of many of the animals in the wild kingdom. But we have our the tools we can make from our brain size, things like that. Obviously, so we are different, but we're not that different. And so I think it is fascinating when you look at nature. That is how they eat. That's absolutely how they eat first.
Then how come the masses now don't eat organ meat? The majority of people, it's like they slaughter the cow and it's the muscle meat that's being sold. Like what happened there? How did we forget that? Hey, I want to take a minute to share something with you as we take a break from the video you're watching. One of the most common things I see to why people don't have enough energy levels, they have trouble building lean muscle mass, they have brain fog, fatigue, and they don't feel good is because of a deficiency in a hormone called testosterone. Now, testosterone is a very important hormone to have in a healthy amount for both men and for women. So, how do you reclaim your vitality? How do you reclaim this very important fat burning and muscle building hormone? Well, you can do it with a powerful supplement called Upgraded Tea. It has been my go to for naturally elevating testosterone levels. Upgraded Tea is from Upgraded Formulas, and it contains the highest quality of ingredients that have been proven scientifically to increase testosterone production. Now, as I mentioned, if you're a woman watching this is very important for you just as a man watching this right now. Upgraded Tea is a natural and safe way to boost testosterone levels. When you boost testosterone levels, it's going to increase your sex drive, vitality. It could help replace fatigue with all day energy. It'll help you lose that stubborn belly fat. Testosterone is required for fat burning, so it'll help you with the last 5 to 10 pounds that you're looking to lose. It helps you be in a better mood, helps with your memory and focus. So here's the 3-step approach. Step 1, take 2 capsules of Upgraded Tea with water every morning. It does not break your fast. You can have it with food or without food. Step number 2, notice your energy levels and dominate your day with more confidence and more vitality. Step number 3, wake up the next day having better sleep and just keep doing what you're doing. As simple as that. So if you want to get your hands on Upgraded Formulas, Upgraded Tea, and any of their awesome products like their Upgraded Magnesium and their hair mineral analysis testing kit, head over to upgradedformulas.com. And if you use the coupon code ketosis at checkout, they're going to give you 15% off your entire order. That is upgradedformulas.com. Ketosis at checkout. We're going to drop that link down below. And let's get back to today's video.
I love that you asked that question. I've done a lot of research on it. So it's changed throughout history. What's fascinating is that our ancestors ate it. And when I say ancestors, I'm talking about our grandparents. For some of us, our parents, not that long ago.
Right.
But right around World War II. So before World War II, organ meats were kind of getting sequestered to being poor people's food. It was cheaper cut of meat. It was just one of those things that it's like, it was like your aunt, how would I say it? Like the old world culture, that was their food. And now we're in America and this is how we eat, But so then World War II happened and there was a concern about protein shortage, meat shortage. So the government actually they invested money in a campaign towards getting people to eat other sources of protein. So they were focusing on, that's where Meatless Mondays came from. Actually, people may not realize this. Yeah, it was during World War II, Meatless Mondays. They also then they tried to promote organ meats. And the reason why is because all the muscle meat was going abroad to the soldiers. I didn't say that. So that's why they were doing this. They changed organ meats to variety meats. They were literally changing the name to just kind of make it more exciting and more similar to muscle meat. And it worked. So they did start getting people to eat more organ meats. And that's why I think our grandparents ate a lot of liver and onions and stuff like that. But then what happened is when the men came back from the war, while they were away, many of the women started working and they didn't want to stop working. So you had people now in a household, you had 2 people working in a household. So you had even more income coming in. And so then it really did become this thing of like, we can afford the finer cuts. Why would we buy this this cheaper version, this lower class cut? We can afford this. And so then you start seeing that more and more people they're not buying the organ meats. And so what happens when there's no demand, then there's no supply. Like why butchers are not going to carry that if they're not selling it. So then you start to see the shift. And then, of course, in more industrial kind of packaged foods start growing, in the 50s and all that stuff. And so now we're even moving further and further away from the source, right? To the point where now, like my mother, she grew up in Brooklyn, New York. They used to have a poultry market that you would go in. There would be a live chicken. You would pick that chicken and then come back in an hour and a half or 2 hours. And the chicken would then be plucked and basically it would be a warm carcass at that point, basically.
Mm.
So they were very connected of like, I'm eating chicken tonight and it comes from a living bird.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we see pieces of chicken.
Correct.
And we don't even connect it to the whole animal. We see pieces of, and like a lot of people, you ask a young child, where does pork come from? And they don't realize it comes from a pig.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's such a disconnect. And Joel Salatin of gosh, why am I skipping on the name? Polyface.
Polyface Farms. Yeah. He's
in
great.
Virginia. He talks about how it's like this all our meat now comes covered in plastic. It's like this true disconnect from our food source. And Bill Schindler talks about this as well. But I believe that is what happened, is that we got so disconnected from that part of the animal, the whole animal. And then as time goes on, it's not being carried in grocery stores. So now you're not, what you don't see, you don't think about, you couldn't go on the internet back then and just put an order and place it. And then now, so something that used to be so common now is unfamiliar. So you kind of lose a taste for it because it does have a different taste than muscle meat. Yep. You also start to now not know where to source it because your local markets aren't carrying it. And then the other thing is you lose the art of cooking it. Like, so now it looks so unfamiliar for muscle meat that you're like, how do I even do this? And these are all things that carry to today, right? These are all hurdles we currently deal with. People are super overwhelmed. I mean, you can go in a room, and I think this is hilarious. You can go into a room and be like, hey, how about I serve today? I'm going to serve organ meat survey. And you'll see the faces. Oh, everyone make this face. And then I'll talk to them. I'll be like, well, have you actually ever eaten organ meats? Oh, no.
Right.
Yeah. They haven't eaten it. But if I had come into that room and said, hey, today we're going to do this really amazing dessert from, and I'll make up a name, of Timbuktu, whatever. I'll just make, it's just like, I'll make it up like it's from this other country and you've never had it. And we're going to serve it. And everyone go, ooh, it's a dessert. Like no one would make that face.
True. Yeah.
It's so conditioned, right? Against savory foods, and particularly these kind of unfamiliar foods. So I really think that is what happened, is we just got unfamiliar.
So we got to bring it back. We got to make organ meats great again.
Yes.
That might offend some people, the fact that I use that term. But
how I like to say it is I like to say make offal, OFFAL. That's another name for organ meat. Make offal delicious.
That's good. I like that. So the question regarding the organ meat, since when I go to the grocery store, you're correct. There might be some liver sometimes, but you don't really see a lot of organ meat at a traditional grocery store. What are all these companies doing with all the organ meat?
Yeah, that's another great question. So what they're doing is, so you have the ranch who's creating the animal, then you have the slaughterhouse, and sometimes they are also a meat processor, but then the third thing would be a meat processor. And so a lot of times what happens is the ranch or farm, they bring their cattle to the slaughterhouse. Once the slaughterhouse in effect is purchasing that animal, and they have a HACCP plan. So basically they're purchasing the whole animal based on a price, but they're factoring in, okay, I get all these parts of the animal and the rancher gets these parts. So once that ranch hands over that cow to the slaughterhouse, they've already divvied up. This is what the rancher is going to get back, and this is the price they're going to pay for it.
Interesting.
And the way that the slaughterhouses sort of offset their costs is then they get all the other parts. And so that HACCP plan has to do with which parts does the rancher get. And most ranchers, I mean, we mentioned polyface. Like I've talked to Joel before, and I was like, Joel, how much of the animal do you get access to? And he's like, I mean, he gets all the muscle, he gets the tongue, he gets the liver, he gets the kidney, the heart, sometimes the spleen, but not really. Like that's where it starts to divvy off, like they just don't get access to it. And so what the slaughterhouses are doing is then they're selling those to other companies or businesses. So they're selling them. They used to sell them to hot dog companies. Like that's, cheap hot dogs actually used to have more nose to tail on them than people realize. They had the lips, they had the ears, they had different parts of the animal. That's what they were doing. these kind of minced meat kind of things. And then they're also selling them to the pet food industry. They're selling some of them to pharmaceutical, and then some go to zoos. I mean, it just gets dispersed. But I think a lot of people think that it's just getting thrown away. And I do think that there are circumstances where that happens, like in the poultry industry, not in the egg part of the poultry industry, when they're hatching chicks, if they only can use females. So when a male is hatched, they literally throw it away. They throw that little chick away. It's horrible industry.
Dude.
So there are industries where they throw things away, and that's very true. But for the most part, like slaughterhouses are very efficient. The problem that we're running into, and this is ultimately, I think, what we're here talking about, is that 92%. This is a 2015 study. 92%. So I think it's actually more like 95 now. 92% of Americans are nutrient deficient, but we're not calorie deficient.
Yeah.
So that is very, very important to think about. So that is really a comment on what we are not eating the proper foods. And here's what I find is interesting. When that cow is going to get slaughtered, the parts of that cow that are the most nutrient dense, that would fill that nutrient deficiency, is considered not for human consumption. So that's when it goes to the pet industry, or when it goes to other industry. It's stuff that we cannot even sell. Like if the farmer wants it back, they have to buy it back. And then that means they have to sell it. And then it has to be part of the HACCP plan. So there's all these stages that have to happen. But ultimately, what's going on is that the parts that we need the most for nutritional purposes are getting used elsewhere. And so then what happens? Well, we're then spending $50 billion on supplements. And that's the piece that I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Like we are, and I know your audience is they're keto, they're into, most of them are probably animal based. So they're they understand the value of an animal. And yet we're throwing away the most nutrient dense part of the animal. We're just tossing it away. And it's like, but yet we're still needing those nutrients. So we go elsewhere for them. And that's the piece that I'm like, I've got to help change this. That's really what my mission is now. It's like, I've got to help to make more of the animal, make nose to tail easier, more delicious, and more like obtainable for us moving forward. Because I believe that is what we need as a society. And I believe that's what's going to save us.
You're 100% correct, James. It's pretty crazy as you break it down that way. We're overfed, Americans are, but undernourished. And, some might say people overeat because they're trying to get those nutrients. They have to eat so many calories, these nutrient deficient foods to get there, but they're not getting there. So what do? To James' point, they go to Walgreens or CVS or Amazon and they buy synthetic supplements to try to fill the gap. It doesn't do its job. So what if we actually had a way for people, the masses, to consume high quality organ meat in a digestible, easy to consume format? Enter Pluck, enter your company. So let's talk about it. I've been using your product now for a couple months since we first met. Explain the process behind it, the ingredients, the sourcing, and then we'll talk about the creative ways to use it. Hey, I want to just briefly interrupt the video you're watching to share something with you. One of my favorite companies that I use for health and longevity and biohacking is a company called Bond Charge. And they have a whole range of incredible products, including the blue light blocking glasses you see me wear right now. But one of my favorite products from them is an infrared sauna blanket. That's right. You don't have to spend a ton of money investing in a sauna or spending so much time driving to a facility with the sauna. They actually created a sauna blanket that you could use in the comfort of your own home. And I use this all the time. Why would we want to even do a sauna? Well, there's a lot of research and a lot of studies showing the benefits of infrared sauna. The sauna blanket works by raising your heart rate to a workout or a training session. So you burn more calories while you're actually lying down and relaxing. You could burn up to 600 calories in one single session. Also, it's going to cause you to sweat. And one method of flushing out toxins from your body is through sweat. There's also one of my favorite benefits, this endorphin release, endorphin rush you get from using a sauna blanket. And every time I get out of the sauna blanket, I feel like I just got a 60-minute massage. And that's because of the endorphin benefit from it. So how this works differently than a regular sauna is that it works by using infrared light, which heats the body directly rather than the air around you like a traditional sauna. This means you get the same benefit at a lower heat. So it's easy to set up. It's super convenient. 30 to 40 minutes will suffice in terms of the length of the sessions. And you do that 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to feel amazing. Add that to your keto fasting protocol and watch what it does for your results. You could do it while you watch TV. You could do it while you read a book. I do it while I listen to an audiobook. So if you want to learn more about the Bond Charge products, including the sauna blanket, head over to bondcharge.com/keto camp. And if you use the coupon code keto camp at checkout, you'll get 15% off your sauna blanket. And actually, any of their products are 15% off with that code. Bond Charge hooked you up. So head over to that domain or click the link down below and go get your Bond Charge products. All right, let's get back to today's video.
Yeah, so nose to tail, as I said, is my mission. I hope to get even more access to the animals. But so right now, we source from New Zealand, and we have access. New Zealand's got an amazing supply chain for nose to tail. They've got it dialed in. They're an island. They can do grass-fed 100% of the year because of the weather there. They can control the environment because it's an island. They're very strict on what they let in. So really, really clean product coming out of there. And so we get our organs from there. It's 100% grass fed. And what we're doing right now is focusing on these 5 organs. So we're getting the liver, the heart, the kidney, the spleen, and the pancreas. 5 organs. Now, most people out there who might be listening will be like, oh, I get my liver. Yeah, but I bet you're not getting your spleen and your pancreas. Mm-hmm. Like, and why I really want to focus on nose to tail. So I'm not just saying, let's just eat liver. Notice I'm not the liver king. I'm not saying, he's actually much more than just the liver too. But my point is that when we, back in the day, if we were a tribe and we slaughtered an animal, there's one liver, you know what I mean? There's one heart. It's not like you could freaking eat heart 30 days of the year. 30 days of the month. You only had a little bit. And a lot of times they gave them to the people that were pregnant, to the kids, to the people that were sick. So sometimes you didn't even get much of it. But the point is I'm not saying that we should focus on one organ. I'm saying let's focus on the whole animal. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we have 5 organs. We get them, they're raw and then freeze dried. So they're as nutrient dense as you can get, even better than dehydrated. And then they're powdered. And what I did was, so you're already, people, you mentioned Paul Saladino, you mentioned the Liver King. So what they're selling are encapsulated organ meats. And they even have those 5 organ blends. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing that's important to me and why I did Pluck is I actually believe we should be eating our nutrition, not swallowing our nutrition. And here's why. If you think about salt, for example, if you are low in sodium and I give you a salt tablet, you're going to get a delayed response because you're going to swallow that tablet and then later on you might feel bloated because you got too much. You might feel great, you know what I mean? But either way, the communication is delayed. But if I give you salt and you put some on your tongue, you get an immediate communication, an immediate response. That salt either tastes really good and you're inspired to do another dip of finger with your salt, or it suddenly tastes really bad. And I believe it's because we're not bypassing our digestive process. We're getting that, you're getting the saliva on there. There's an immediate communication and your body then tells you, this is how much more salt I need. Mm-hmm. And I don't need any more once I've gotten that.
It's a fair point. That's why it's called a salt lick, not a salt capsule back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why what I did was I took the same ingredients you're getting in the capsules, but I combined them with organic spices and herbs to basically make it taste good. And so now you can sprinkle it on anything, literally anything. It's incredibly versatile. We've got 3 flavors. One is called all-purpose, one's zesty garlic, and the third is called spicy. And so those 3 add flavor to anything, no different than any organic, or any spice mix. But what they're doing is they're turning everything you add it to a superfood, because now you're getting those 5 organs in it. And then inevitably we get asked, well, how much are you really getting? I mean, like it's micro amounts, but here's the thing: micro dosing plus frequent use equals cumulative effect.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I can kind of support why microdosing works is we can just talk about glyphosate. Glyphosate is a chemical that was in Roundup when Monsanto put it out there in the 50s. And it's something that was sold in micro amounts. We were told it was only a tiny bit was in there. It wouldn't affect our health. And now we can't get it out of our food. We can't get it out of our air. It's in our water. It's in our soils. It's in our breast milk. They're finding it in breast milk. It's in hummus. I mean, it's like you name it, there's glyphosate there, and it's killing us. It's, in a sense, it's potentially one of the biggest chronic health mover. It's one of the things that's contributing probably the most to chronic issues. And that was microdosing. So I'm a big fan, and I'm just a big fan of like moderation. Like I'm a big fan of like, let's not go crazy eating tons of organ meats, every day. Let's just focus on getting a little bit every day. You sprinkle it on every meal. It's very versatile. You get it with every meal every day. So you're getting that flavor, you're getting the nutrition, and then you just get cumulative effect over time. To me, that's going to be more sustainable than someone that goes aggressively all in and then suddenly burns out. Now, for the people that are like, oh, but I really want that 100% nutrition. Well, guess what? We do have a blend for you. It's just the organ blend. It's called Pure. Mm-hmm. So for those people, you don't have to open a capsule. It's a pouch with the organ meat in it. And what's kind of cool about that one is you can give it to yourself and to your pets. Like I sprinkle it on my cat's food because my cat can get picky and she goes crazy for her food. I sprinkle on my dog's food as well. But it has
pure
no
one. The pure one.
The pure is the key. So anyone that's hardcore carnivore, that's what you're going to want. Pure is 100% organ meat blend. It's got no salt and it's got no spices and herbs. So for those people that are like, oh, I just want the 100% nutrition, great. Here, buy this one. You can now add this one to anything that has flavor. So the other 3 contribute flavor. This one's kind of a more neutral, kind of, I don't know. It's kind of slightly meaty and kind of like you eat it and it's neutral, but then at the end you get a little meatiness, just a little bit, but it's fairly flat tasting. So it's great. You can add it to smoothies. You can add it to sauces. You can add it to your ground meats, just mix it in. And now you're getting those 5 organs super easily. And that's the key, going back to your original question of why Pluck, right? It's like, I know that as humans, we are lazy sometimes. We are our own enemies. Like we basically look for things that are easy. And I know that if I want to make food sustainable for you, particularly healthy food, I have to hit 2 marks. I have to make sure it's delicious and I have to make it easy. Yeah. And if I can hit those 2 things, you will go on autopilot. Food will become like Netflix. You won't even think about the cost. You'll just buy it and it's there and you'll use it. And it doesn't matter if, COVID-25 happens, doesn't matter, because you're going to be like, well, I don't have to abandon this because it's easy and it's delicious.
Yeah, I love it. Dude, it's such a great product. I love that you have the one that's just pure, because if you're doing carnivore, there's different levels to carnivore. Some of you are a little bit strict where it's just beef and salt. Well, you could take the pure product and you don't have to worry about any seasoning or spices. But if you're doing a carnivore with seasoning and spices like I do, then you could do all-purpose zesty garlic or the spicy. I love the idea, though, about giving the pure product to your cat or dog. I'm going to get some of that and give some to my dog, because I give them raw meat. And it's an organ meat blend, but might as well put this in there too, so you could just ramp up the organ meat for my dog.
Totally, because like we were talking about, most likely if they were in the wild, they would be eating more organ meats than the pet food industry is putting in their food.
Yeah, he eats raw. My dog eats raw, and it's like an organ meat blend that I get from a company here. But I like the idea of adding this into his food. Let's talk about some of the creative ways to use this. Maybe I could share, James, how I've been using my products, because I got a few from you in Low Carb Denver. My favorite way to use it is to use it as seasoning for my steaks, like my ribeye. I'll put it over my ribeye and then I'll sear it. It's such a great seasoning, such a great taste, but I know like it's loaded with nutrients. So although I'm eating a ribeye or I'm eating a New York strip and it's a muscle meat, I know that I'm seasoning with organ meat, so I'm getting the balance of methionine to glycine. I'm getting all the other benefits of organ meat. So I love using it for that. Sometimes I'll even put it in my protein shakes, and I don't really taste it because I'll just put a little bit in my protein shake. But that would be like more of a pure product versus the other ones that are flavored. I know at the event you put them over like different nuts. I think, was it cashews or almonds? Did you have it over some nuts? I think.
Yeah, I had cashews, almonds. I put it over coconut as well sometimes, like coconut pieces. And then for, when I go to, like sometimes when I go to some conferences where they're not low carb, I'll do popcorn even. I'll put it on top of popcorn, and people they freak out. It's so good. What's kind of cool too, I mean, I mentioned earlier, I'm a father, right? So, and I wanted to not have to deal with like the issues of picky eating, or I just didn't want to have to be, I didn't want to have to be an issue getting, these healthy foods into my daughters. And what's so cool is like, it's a non-issue. They put it on everything. And they know what it is at this point. But I always tell parents, like, don't tell your kids what it is. Just let them taste it, because the body knows. It's no different like with the salt that we were talking about. Yeah. It's like when you put this organ meat blend on your tongue as a child or an adult, your body immediately perks up. Like it's so cool watching kids eat this, because they kind of freak out. It's almost like it's crack or something. They're like, oh, I want more. And I've heard even parents tell me their young kids don't want to put it down. Like they cry when they run out. And I totally believe it's because it's the body. It's the body saying, just like it did with salt, it's saying, need more, want more, organ meats, want more,
Yeah, it's so important for the development of the brain, as you established earlier. Okay, I love the idea of parents who are listening and watching using this for their kids. You could put it in their eggs. I mean, give me some creative ways you're using it for your kids.
I honestly, when I say like we put it on everything, I truly mean it. So we're not 100% keto or paleo, and I mean we eat mostly paleo, but like my kids will have popcorn. They'll sometimes have toast, and they put it on those. We put it on eggs. I put it on a salad when I do have greens. Interesting. I use it. So the way I use it a lot, and we typically recommend, is even using it as a finishing salt, because heat denatures vitamins and minerals. And so even though it's a whole food, like this isn't like an isolate, we're not taking these organ nutrients and isolating them. It's a whole food that then is freeze dried and powdered. So all the moisture is taken out of it. And that does kind of protect those minerals and vitamins because it's a whole food. But no matter what, even when you put that steak on, in the oven or on the stovetop, you're losing a little bit of nutrition right when you cook it. Now, of course, you're sometimes, and depending on what the food is, sometimes you increase the bioavailability of that nutrition by cooking it or culturing it or whatever it is, right? But so what I like to do is so I'll make my steak with just a little salt, and then I'll pull the steak on the plate, and then I'll cover it with Pluck, because then I'm maximizing the flavor. And then, of course, I'm making sure those nutrients are not, cooked down or burnt or anything like that.
Smart. I'm going to start doing that too. I'm going to add it to the steak after it's already cooked. For those who are watching and listening, if you want to check out Pluck, we have James hooked you all up with the 15% coupon code. And the coupon code is Keto Camp with the K. We're going to drop a link. If you're watching on YouTube, the link's at the bottom there. If you're listening on the podcast, we're going to put the link in the notes. You could go to the website and you can see, I'm looking at your website here. I love that you have a comparison with your seasoning compared to Goya, Old Bay, and Lawry's, and showing essentially like there's barely any vitamin and minerals or nutrients in those products compared to yours. And this chart speaks a lot of volumes, James.
Yeah, thank you. That's actually, you bring something up that I don't think a lot of people realize is, so when you're purchasing food that's packaged in a grocery store, every food maker is a business. So I'm not faulting any business, but they're all trying to make money. And so they have to kind of make sure that their product, isn't costing so much to make for what they're selling. They need a margin, right? And one of the ways that these businesses, these food companies help to increase the margin that they can profit from is they use cheap ingredients. And so even when you get seasoning blends, you'll see that the first ingredient is salt. And that's because salt it's cheap. Then you'll sometimes also see sweetener, like a sugar or something. And that's because sugar is sweet. Like onions are actually like getting a dehydrated, like granulated onion is more expensive than sugar or salt. And so what I'm always trying to show people is like when you look at our blend, like if you were to read the back of our ingredients, you would see the first ingredient is onion. It's granulated onion. It's organic. So that's just an onion that's been, dehydrated and granulated. There's no fillers added to it. And then the second ingredient is sometimes garlic, or it's the organ meat. I think it's actually, for most of the blends now, it's the organ meat. And then the third one might be garlic. And then it's like fourth one is salt. It's like, so this is truly like different from other blends. Like you're getting yes, it's going to cost more than a blend that doesn't have organ meats in it. But I'm just trying to educate people that this is truly a delicious, high quality blend, unlike any out there, because I guarantee most blends are going to just be salty. Like, have you ever noticed that when you put other seasonings on, just, the first flavor you get is salt. It's just boom, tons of salt. That's not the case with ours. You get an umami taste that's from the organ meats. You can taste the onion. If you're getting the all-purpose, you could taste the smoked paprika. There's a little lemon zest lemon peel in them, and so you get like a lemon zesty kind of taste sometimes, where the all-purpose and the spicy a little bit. But you'll see that it's actually I really believe that is why people like the taste, is because they're getting a true spice blend. It's not just a salt blend, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. You're right. Whenever I use other seasoning, it's very, very salty. And I love the fact that the salt you have in your seasoning is from Redmond's, and we love Redmond's. We're big fans of them. So we know it's high quality salt. I'm looking at your website. It's cool because your website also has some recipes here. And I see my good friend Dr. Vincent Pedre has a smoothie recipe. Mr. Happy Gut, his new book just came out as well. So yeah, you have some cool recipes here, some creative ways to use it. This is very important, because the number one, what's the word I'm looking for? When people hesitate to consume organ meat, it's usually because of the taste. They're like, I can't do that. It's too gamey. I can't do liver, blah, blah, blah. And to your point, we kind of forgot that. We're disconnected. So how do you bridge the gap? How do you have organ meats and get the benefits of organ meats without actually having to feel like you're having organ meats, essentially? All right. And this is solving that problem, especially for me. To be honest with you, James, I don't like the taste of organ meat. Sometimes I'll get like a blend of like liver and heart with ground beef, and it hides it, but I know it's in there. But with this, I have no problem using this. That speaks volumes, because I usually have problems with organ meat and I do the capsules, but now I've been using your product and it tastes actually pretty good. So you solved that problem for me, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And you're not the only one to share that with me. I've had so many people say like, oh yeah, I get gag reflex when I try to eat organs, but I can do your organ blend. And yeah, that's the goal, right? Is like how to overcome all those hurdles we identified earlier in the episode, and just get you the nutrients and get them to you easy and deliciously. So I'm ecstatic. I mean, I look forward to creating even more. I have lots of ideas for other products using even more of the animal. We're working right now as a business to get more access to a domestic supply chain. Like we're really trying to support farmers here in the U.S. There's a lot of great ranches and farmers out here who are doing great jobs raising their animals humanely, feeding them, that 100% grass, and just kind of using regenerative methods of raising the cattle and the farm in general. And so we want to support that. We just have to create the supply chain and the infrastructure more. You have to get it to be more robust. And so we're constantly working on that. And once we do, my hope is we'll get more access to parts. Because, there is a concept. Have you ever heard of the concept of like supports like? Have you ever heard of that before? Yeah. Yeah. So
explain it.
So that's something I think is, I think it's something we're severely missing from our modern diet. The idea of like supports like, and it's an ancestral concept, but it's like if I eat heart, that's helping my heart. If I eat brain, that's helping my brain. And isn't it interesting? And I'm not saying this is the only reason, but I can't help but wonder if this is a big reason, is that we have dementia, Alzheimer's. It's at an all-time high
Mm-hmm.
in our evolution. It's horrible, and it's just increasing. And yet we don't eat brain, and our ancestors did. And when I say ancestors, I'm just talking a few generations back. I'm not talking about our Paleolithic ancestors. There are people that used to eat sheep brain, cow brain, all these things, and then we got mad cow disease, you know, and I think it was the 90s or late 80s, something like that. And now it's like you can't even get access to it. And I just got to wonder how we would change if we could get more access to these parts of the animal that we're suffering from, you know, currently. You know, the brain health, we're suffering. Thyroid issues are huge, right? You know, people aren't eating lungs. They're not eating intestine. They used to do that. Like pig intestine is something you used to see in the South a lot, and it's called chitlins. You can still find it, but once again, I think more and more people are losing the taste for it. So I just can't help but wonder if we're missing a big piece to that energetically, nutritionally, and if we can just make that shift, that it might shift more things than it wouldn't. Like you know, I always say, like, if I can get you eating organ meats, if I can get you feeling better in your body, then you're going to feel better, and then you're going to treat others better. And then now we have a better society. We have a world, you know, a world that is just better to be in because we're treating each other better. Because the reality is if you don't feel good in your body, that is how you treat others.
Mm-hmm.
You treat others how you feel, typically.
Yeah, beautifully said, James. You're absolutely correct, and it's going to be a grassroots movement. Unfortunately, you know, big food and big pharma and the government, they're not really aligned with having people eat organ meat right now. They're, you know, they're pushing more like Lucky Charms and Cheerios versus organ meat. So that's why conversations like this is very important for those watching and listening. Try it for yourself first and foremost. Give it a shot. You know, check out the ingredients, the sourcing, and all that. It's all listed on the website. And then try it. And then if you like it and you're noticing a difference, then share it. Share this episode with your friends, your family, somebody you know who has kids. It's going to have to be a grassroots effort. And to James' point, when somebody is healthier, they're going to be kinder. They're going to be nicer. It's going to be better for society. We have a lot of people who are sick and unhealthy. 88% plus of Americans are unhealthy. And it's no surprise that most people are unhappy at the same time. So your food directly correlates to your mood, and having a nutrient-dense seasoning that's very easy to consume is a great way to bridge the gap. So any final words you want to share on that before we land the plane together?
Honestly, I think you nailed it, and I'm just so grateful for us having this conversation because I think that's how the movement, you know, that's how it starts and that's how it continues. It's just by having the conversation. So I'm just really grateful for you having me on as a guest. I'm grateful for you sharing your experience with Pluck and the honesty that you struggle eating organ meats. I think that's the piece too. We started. I don't think we talked about it here, but we talked about this before it started about how, you know, a lot of people who are following these carnivore diets or keto diets, they're eating mostly muscle.
Yeah.
They're not eating these organ meats, you know, and the question I think we all have to ask ourselves is why. And that's not about shaming. I'm not at all trying to shame anyone. I'm just saying, yeah, I get it. I'm like that too. So let's not be afraid of eating it. Let's just find easy and delicious ways to eat it. So give Pluck a try if you're not eating it. And if you like it, great. And if you don't, to your point, go to the recipe section on our website and you'll see tons of recipes. And you can always hear, I've done lots of talks on how to ease into organ meats. So there's lots of value out there on how to ease this very nutrient dense, very important animal-based product into your diet. But the key is we got to start somewhere. And I do believe Pluck is the gateway. It's the entry point. But it doesn't have to be the end point.
Yeah, right on. 100%. I love that. What is your social media? Where do you want them to go to check you out?
Well, you can find us at Eat Pluck. And then me personally, I'm at Chef James Berry with an A. And would love hearing how people enjoy the product. We are very grateful for support, as you know, in spreading the word. And we always have, discounts out there. Like, don't let anything stop you from giving it a try, because I really believe your health you're worth it. Your health is important. So let's remove the barriers. So just, reach out, or don't be afraid to ask what you need, and let us know how you like it.
100%. Health is not an expense. Health is an investment. I always ask my guests the question at the end of every episode. I've been asking all of my guests what they're grateful for. And you actually already said it. I love that you already expressed it before I even got to that point. I call it vitamin G, the strongest vitamin in the world, gratitude. But I appreciate you already expressing that before I asked it. So thank you, James. I'll express my gratitude to you. I love that you're solving a big problem, not just for parents, but for humans who really need to get more organ meats, these high quality, nutrient dense organ meats into their bodies, without the thought of, oh my gosh, I'm eating heart, I'm eating kidney, I'm eating liver, or oh, the taste is so bad, it's so gamey. Like, all that's gone, and you've created a very easy product to get that into the masses. And I'm excited to see where it goes. You mentioned there's new products, that you have in mind. I know that you're still kind of getting started with Pluck here, so that's why it's important to share these conversations and buy the product, everybody. But I want to say thank you for creating such an easy product for us to use. The masses, you're getting high quality ingredients from New Zealand. Hopefully we're going to bring that to the US, but I'm grateful for the fact that you put all this together for us in a very easy to use format. So thank you, James, and thank you for what you're doing for the world.
Thank you.
We'll do a round two. And if you're going to Orlando, Dave Asprey's conference, Pluck and James will be there. I'll be there too, but go say hello to James. Let him know you listen to the podcast. James, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.